Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at AmericanExpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
It is really funny as well. I think this is, and it's exactly, for me, it's exactly the sort of thing that makes me laugh.
It was bleak. Bleak.
What did you expect then before you watched it?
So Hannah and our colleague Mickey, the way they were talking about was like bantz-a-fucking-rama. Like, this is the funniest thing you'll ever see.
But it is really funny.
It is really funny, but it didn't meet my expectations in terms of the plot. And it is very funny, but it was really, really bleak.
It's a 6. It's an O. It's episode 60.
Welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast, and we're going to be talking about In Bruges with Hannah.
Hi.
And Jen.
Hi.
From Standard Podcast.
Standard Issue.
Standard Issue Podcast. Remember that, guys. It's a Standard Issue Podcast. And as always, it's Helen.
Hello.
As always, guys, we have all the show notes online at flixwatcher.tv for all the episodes. So please come and visit us there. Of course, join us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod. And please come to iTunes, rate us, and subscribe.
Come find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod. Visit the website flixwatcher.tv for full listings, and don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us an awesome review. Hello and welcome to Flixwatcher podcast. Today we are joined by Hannah and Jen. If you would like to say hello and tell us a little bit more about your podcast, please.
Hi, I'm Hannah.
Hello, I'm Jen.
And I feel like we're doing like one of those weird answer phone messages where you say a bit and I say a bit. We are from Standard Issue, which is a podcast by women. The team is entirely female. We actually started as an online magazine, which was 2014. We were founded by the comedian Sarah Millican. And we talk about all the things that women are interested in, which is...
everything.
Correct.
Is that true?
Yeah, not just lipsticks.
Oh,
honestly,
no.
yeah.
In fact, not lipsticks at all.
No,
It's
never
a whole
lipsticks,
new world
actually.
for you, Kobe.
Yeah.
No fashion, no
No.
dieting,
Well, not dieting, no. Occasionally we might
no
touch on fashion, but
we don't
it's
celebrity
not...
gossip.
No, we don't do that shit.
We talk about news and politics and sport and films and all sorts.
TV.
And I was listening this morning to the one about returns, which I found very informative.
Yeah.
What happens in returns?
Returning unwanted items to the shops and things about your rights and what happens if you've got a bit of an ASOS obsession and things like that.
That means you've heard the story about the time I accidentally dyed my facial hair black. That's a fun story to share with the world.
If that's going to get anyone to come in and listen to us, that's the story that'll do it.
Is that the one you lead out with?
Yeah, that story's on my Tinder profile. Yeah.
And you guys, you have a few different types of show formats, don't you?
We do what is basically a magazine format. We are weekly, 3 weeks out of the month. We have some of the magazine format, which is us in a studio with guests and lots of people talking about either topical things or, things that are funny. And then 1 month we have a live recording of what we call an In Conversation event, which we have some pretty exciting women.
Yeah. Go on, Hannah. Who've we had? We've had
Jojo Moyes.
Dawn French.
Kathy Burke.
DFW.
Yeah.
Joe Brand, DFW.
Sharon Horgan.
Jessica Hines.
Yep.
Sandy Toksvig.
Yep.
Claudia Winkleman.
Miranda Hart.
Yeah.
The list is not endless. It is endless. Oh, it's whatever.
It goes on and on.
It does go on and on.
It
does go on.
And we've got one next week, which we have Jennifer Saunders at.
Oh.
Which is quite exciting as well. Yeah. I spend a lot of time going, hello, and then sort of hovering in a corner.
So as we record this, it's past Christmas, and one of the highlights of the Christmas viewing was French and Saunders. I think it's like the best of, a lot of the best ofs they did. And I forget how awesome the stuff that they did together really was.
There's things that that I can't watch now without envisaging that, like Dangerous Liaisons. I can't watch without that thing where just thinking of those two behind the fans just whispering rubbish to each other. Or Aliens, when Dawn French just says, "Oh, do I have to keep running down corridors?"
So we are talking about In Bruges.
We are.
Which you chose, Hannah.
I did choose.
So can you tell us why you chose it and what happens in the show? In the film?
I chose it because I had recently been to the cinema to see 3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, and it reminded me how much I like Martin McDonagh's stuff. So
I sense a few segues in this. Have you seen 3 Billboards?
I saw it last night in preparation.
Have you seen 3 Billboards?
I have seen it, yeah.
There's going to be some segues in this episode, guys. Strap in. Okay.
So we should probably say there may be spoilers. So if you haven't and you're planning, then
yeah, well, try not to spoil 3 Billboards.
Oh, definitely.
But In Bruges can be spoiled. It will be spoiled.
It's on Netflix, you know.
In Bruges, it. Yeah.
So it's 10 years old as well.
Well, I think that if you've got to the point where you haven't got around to watching it yet, then you can't complain about spoilers.
You say that. I hadn't watched it until yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it's basically the story of 2 hitmen who something goes catastrophically wrong on a hit that they are on, and they are sent by their boss to the medieval city of Bruges to lay low.
Fairy tale city.
The fairy tale city, yeah. Apart from that bit on the outside with the dual carriageway. Have you been to Bruges? Anyone?
No.
Keep on threatening to. As a result of watching this film, we keep on thinking
to go and see the enclaves.
let's go to Bruges.
I went with. I had just been made redundant, and my dad. He had a sister who lived in America, and she'd come over to visit him, and she decided for no apparent reason that she wanted to go to Bruges, and he was going with her. And I was made redundant, and I literally had nothing to do. And I thought, I'll go to Bruges. You know, they're already going. Just get in the car. And it snowed the entire time I was there. And my aunt made me go to church with her. And it was Easter Sunday, and I was in there for 2.5 hours. And if you think 2.5 hours in church is bad, when it's being conducted in Flemish and you don't understand a single word of it, that was quite stressful. But yes, I have been to Bruges. It's quite pretty.
Okay.
Was it pretty in the snow?
It was pretty in the snow. It was also freezing in the snow.
So you said something goes wrong. I think we can talk.
Oh, we can talk about that. Yes. The hitman played by. I nearly said
Colin Farrell.
I nearly said Colin Firth for a moment, which would be an entirely different film. By Colin Farrell, shoots a priest played by Kieran Hines, and
it was him. That's one thing I was going to ask. So I didn't check it.
And manages to shoot through him and hit a rather angelic-looking boy who is praying, and kill him at the same time. So he runs off or they are sent to Bruges, and then you believe that they're being sent there to lay low, but in fact, their boss, which is a rather tremendous performance by Ray Fiennes, is actually planning to get the first hitman, which is Brendan Gleeson, to kill Colin Farrell because he believes that the death of a child means that the person who killed him must also die, which is also central to the denouement of the film itself.
Awesome. And you chose it because of Martin McDonagh, because you'd seen 3 Billboards and thought,
I do love what I read, because I also think that that Seven Psychopaths is a really underrated film. I think it's genuinely really, really funny, and I don't understand why most people haven't seen it. And I did think about picking that, but In Bruges, I think is it was the starting point, wasn't it?
For him, yeah. Going from theatre to film, yeah.
Well, you say that because it's interesting, because I watched this film when it came out in 2008, I think I checked, and I got it from Blockbuster. Blockbuster Video was still a thing. Well, it was probably DVD at that point. And I hired it, and at the same time I hired Hunger.
Right.
And
Steve McQueen.
Yeah. And when I watched...
You had a fun weekend.
Yeah. But when I watched them both, I remember feeling like genuinely quite excited, because they were both like, it was both of their first films, and they both were coming from somewhere outside of film. Like Martin McDonagh was coming from the theatre, and Steve McQueen was coming from the world of art. And it felt like they were bringing something new and interesting to film. And I think that's probably actually been proven over the past 10 years.
That they know what they're doing.
That they know what they're doing, yeah.
I've still not seen Hunger. It's on my... It was on Netflix at least a couple of months ago. It's on my list, but I don't know when I want to watch that film.
Oh, I don't know if you ever really want to watch it, to be honest. It is super bleak.
Yeah. Save it for a time when you're feeling good about the world, maybe. Or not, I don't know. Is it maybe because it will kill your buzz?
Helen?
Yeah, it's an interesting film. It's basically a film where not really much happens apart from a lot of killing. I think when I first watched it, I think it took me maybe about 2 or 3 goes to kind of get through it. And then I was like, I finally get it now. So I think especially with 3 Billboards as well, it kind of maybe sets up certain expectations that are not necessarily followed. And whether you're okay with that is sort of dependent on how you'll get on with this film.
So what do you mean by expectations?
Well, it doesn't really follow kind of conventional sort of plotting or filmmaking or any way. It's just basically, there's just a lot of people dying and swearing.
It's very much a character piece, isn't it?
There's no sort of journey of discovery, happy endings of sorts, or sort of things that are tied up neatly, or things happen that are ridiculous and absurd, but they still kind of happen without logic. There's some brilliantly bizarre moments in it as well, but it's not conventional. From Colin Farrell making this at this time, this wasn't kind of a typical Colin Farrell film.
No.
One of the rare occasions where he's actually really, really good. He kind of makes one of those films like every 5 years or something. He does a really good
comedy.
film.
And I was really surprised by how well he did comedy.
So where was Colin Farrell outside of In Bruges? What kind of films was he doing?
Well, this was Minority Report.
After Minority Report. So he was kind of, hot.
Didn't he do that one about
Helen
the phone
just gave me a
box?
look.
So phone booth, Minority
Phone
Report.
booth.
He was kind of like an actiony heartthrob
Yeah.
type. And then like after this, he did like SWAT, Miami
Daredevil.
Vice, Daredevil, just basic stinkers and terrible because he's showing how good he can be. And then I think recently, sort of The Lobsters kind of turned it around a little bit.
Yorgos Lanthimos. Have you seen Killing of a Sacred Deer?
Not yet, no.
But he has that similar kind of.
So he can act.
Oh yeah.
He can.
But
he
it is really funny as well. I think this is, and it's exactly, for me, it's exactly the sort of thing that makes me laugh because it's incredibly dark. And there's the brilliant scene in this to me is when, because actually this film reminds me a bit of Rocky in that, you watch Rocky the first time and then you watch it a second time and you forget that Mickey doesn't actually turn up till quite late in Rocky. And then you're just like, where's Mickey? When's he coming? And that's how I feel a bit. The first bit of this, of In Bruges, is okay, but it really hits its stride when Ralph Fiennes turns up. And the scene when they're having that shootout, well, they're not quite shooting out. They're having a negotiation about where they're going to have their shootout in the bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
And it's...
Well, I mean, this is Colin Farrell and
Colin Farrell and he says, oh, okay, I'm going to jump out the window. And then you're going to run round. And he's like, oh, you better run out the window. I don't want to come and find you hiding in a fucking cupboard. And then he said, no, you go left at the bottom of the road. And he goes, I've only just fucking got here. And that's what Martin McDonagh's done so brilliantly since in everything that he's done. That moment of tension completely destroyed by a really silly negotiation in Seven Psychopaths. There's that great bit about Woody Harrelson not wanting his dog to be shot. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I've seen it. I can't remember that.
And he says, come on, Bonnie's not in the gang. And it's so stupid. And also, I think in 3 Billboards, it's when John Hawkes has got her by the neck, and then his girlfriend starts talking about a new dog about her new job in the pony riding centre. And it really just this moment of massive tension disbanded by this ridiculous conversation. So yeah, I think that's probably, to me, that the end bit when he's chasing him down is absolutely hilarious.
Jen.
Yeah, no, I watched it for the first time
Yesterday,
in preparation for this, obviously.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I mean, it is rather the point of me being here, so it's really the least I could do. It was well bleak.
So what did you expect then before you watched it?
Well, so Hannah and our colleague Mickey, the way they were talking about was like bantz-a-fucking-rama. Like, this is the funniest thing you'll ever see.
But it is really funny.
It is really funny, but it is, bearing in mind, I haven't seen 7 Psychopaths, and I watched 3 Billboards like a couple of weeks ago, and that wasn't what I expected it to be. It didn't meet my expectations in terms of the plot, and so I was sort of interested to see this because I haven't seen any of his films until that one. And yeah, they'd sort of build it as this like hilarious thing. And it is very funny, but it was really, really bleak as well. It was good. As you said, it's like, you know, there is this horrible, horrible bleakness, but the humour, which is very, very dark, does sort of punctuate it quite nicely.
Yeah. I'm like yourself, I think, Hannah, with I'm a 7 Psychopaths apologist. I enjoyed it when, at least the first time I watched it, but every time I speak to someone, they kind of say, no, it's not as good.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it, but that makes me think that maybe I should revisit it.
Well, it's still, to this day, people say it's not as good, but I remember laughing a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe there's this kind of theme of not having a resolution that people seem to like from it. I really like kind of character pieces where people you could just get inside the person, and if it doesn't necessarily kind of resolve in a nice little bow, for me that's not really an issue. And this doesn't have a perfect ending. 3 Billboards, as you said, doesn't really have the climax that people want.
They almost all seem set up for a sequel of what happens next, even though they're not, because you're right, they all end.
Doesn't, because everyone's dead.
Oh, well, no, but you don't know if Colin Farrell's dead. He gets loaded into the back of the ambulance, and you have no.
You should have at least a little bit of hope that maybe he survives.
Yeah,
I'd like to think so. It would be nice, wouldn't it? It'd be a nice touch. Yeah. I mean, apart from him being a killer and all that, you have a degree of sympathy for him, don't you?
Yeah.
That's the other thing, I suppose. They're very they're very human characters. They're hitmen, so not really. I guess I don't know that many hitmen myself. You know, you do have quite a lot of sympathy for Colin Farrell's character.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he's just killed an angelic-looking child by accident. But yeah.
One thing I really loved in this film is the kind of minutiae of going through Bruges, and it's almost like it is desperately like a father and son saying, "Let's go and look at the museums."
Yeah. It's my turn to choose what we're doing today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that negotiation.
Yeah.
And
I
that
literally
kind of
have done that.
Yeah.
And my dad uses the C word almost as much as Ray Fiennes does. So yeah, it was. I felt like I'd lived it a little bit.
Yeah.
We didn't kill anyone though.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good to know.
To be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is kind of it does feel theatrical because there's a lot of two-handers. It's not just two blokes having a chat. And if you like that sort of thing, then it's for you. And if you don't, then it's not. But it is one of those things that's quite difficult to try and say if you have to someone who hasn't watched it. Yeah, it's bleak, but it's hilarious at the same time.
I like the bit where they get the note. Where's they get the note?
Yeah,
it's written on it. I'm not the receptionist.
Yeah. I'm the co-owner with my husband. Yeah.
Well, there's a few funny notes, isn't there? With Ray Fiennes' first note saying, "You're supposed to be fucking in. Where the fuck are you?"
Yeah.
That's what you have to be doing.
We've not even touched on dwarfs or midgets.
Yeah.
Which is a two manky hookers and a racist
dwarf.
Yeah.
I kept saying that earlier today when we were recording. But yeah.
The language is sublime and
Fruity.
how he puts it together. Because it doesn't even feel like swearing. It feels like poetry almost, how he puts it all together.
Yeah.
Even the things that aren't as poetic in the delivery, like him having to go at the American tourist who wants to go up the tower.
Yeah.
Are still kind of very, very pointed and very, very well thought out. I think you can kind of see the theatrical background in his writing.
It does have that great. It has that great callback joke, doesn't it? With the guy that won't let them in.
Yeah.
Ray Fiennes speaks up and he said, "No, it's because someone had a heart attack yesterday," which is a really great callback joke. But it's interesting because I have this thing with violence in films in that I actually don't object to violence, but provided that violence is a thing that's actually shown properly, in the way that violence actually is. Yeah. So it's bloody, it's horrible, it's
so
people get punched in the face.
12A's are not you don't like things like the Hunger Games where they're shooting people with bows and arrows, but there's no blood splatter.
No, it's like the A-Team, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like they fire a machine gun off and no one gets hit. That sort of violence I can't be doing with. So I suppose this does succeed in that when things happen, it is nasty, it's brutal, it's unpleasant. Yeah, people don't get shot and then get up 20 seconds later
Or
and just shake
fall
it off.
from
Yeah.
great heights and retain all their limbs.
When I was pressing play on this film again, that was the scene I was thinking about most. Was Brendan Gleeson's character hitting the.
Yeah,
I've never
didn't
seen that
watch
before. I've never seen that kind of shot before in a film, because I've seen many people falling off buildings and then land on a car and they're like, ugh.
Well, you see,
The
but that's
Departed.
Yeah, but again, you just see it hitting. You don't see the blood splatter. You don't see the limbs kind of coming apart, because that's Martin Sheen, isn't it?
Yeah, but then again, it is, and then it's really disgusted, and then it's really funny because obviously he tries to give him his gun.
Yeah,
which is obviously
and all
fun
the
because
springs
it's
are coming out
all
of
springs
it. Yeah.
coming out, and then it's like,
oh, I didn't really think about that.
then it's like, I'm gonna die now. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want to watch that bit, so I was doing a bit of work
How
at
did
the
you know?
same time. So I moved my Word document in front of the screen and just listened to it until I thought it was safe to come back to.
So what you
Moved
saw
it away
you
again.
saw the impact and thought, I don't want to see any
Hannah
more.
pre-warned me
Okay.
because she knew it was not the kind of thing I was going to enjoy. So I knew it was coming, and I was a bit like, I'm not going to watch this. There we go. Yeah, it's a bit too.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, as violence goes, I mean, it's not stylized in that sense, is it? It's just like, I can't bear stuff. I cannot bear Quentin Tarantino stuff that just sort of glorifies and glamorizes violence. I'm all for someone getting punched in the face and seeing their nose do that, because the Sam Peckinpah school of violence, I think.
It's old school.
I kind of.
Yeah.
I'm really, really squeamish. I can't watch Itchy and Scratchy on The Simpsons.
Really?
Like, it's
It
really
is brutal, some
really
of it,
bad.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I've not seen The
It's not
Simpsons for a
real,
while.
Yeah. I mean, it's also a cartoon, and there's never any. I don't think there's ever any blood or anything like that. But yeah, I just like the thought of it. I don't like it. So yeah, so Hannah knew it wasn't going to be
Your bag.
How did you pre-warn her? Did you say when the point where he stands on
I
top?
rang her up and said,
So
when he
when
starts dropping the pennies, skip forward by about 5 minutes, he dies.
So that's a note to anyone else here. If you haven't seen it, when he starts dropping the pennies
Yeah.
into the fog.
Move your Word document over the screen.
All right, guys. Should we go into the scores?
Yeah, let's do some scoring.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
So this is the spreadsheet of dreams. Ooh. So first up is the recommendability score. So all the scores are out of 5.
Okay.
So yeah, how likely are you to recommend this? And we'll start with you, Hannah, because this is your choice.
I would say a 4 out of 5. I would possibly, some people like romantic comedies, so perhaps I wouldn't recommend it to them.
I like rom-coms as
there
well.
is a romance and it is
Yeah,
a
there is
comedy.
romance,
So just not quite in that order.
That might be part of his category choices on Netflix.
Romantic comedy.
Rom-coms, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's got Colin Farrell in it, so it could be.
Yeah.
You can-
Sometimes what Netflix suggests to you that you watch because you watch something else is
Netflix has
insane.
got some very strange ideas about it.
Really has. Absolutely insane.
Very strange.
Well, our recommendations are just... It must be like, who is this person watching?
Yeah, we've
what
got no
the
idea.
hell? Yeah.
Jen, and by the way, you can use decimal places if you want to.
Ooh, fancy.
Much
don't
to
know.
Helen's chagrin.
I think I'm gonna say 3 because Hannah said 4 and she really loves it. So I'm gonna say 3. Yeah, that's what
Okay.
I'm sticking
3.
with it.
Helen.
I'm going to go 4. I do think it's great, but there are definitely people out there who will not enjoy this either for the violence, death, language, or will just not get it, and
Yeah.
it'll make them angry, and they'll be like, "Why am I watching?" But this doesn't work. It doesn't happen. It's not a film. Things that I want to happen don't happen. So those people.
I think you're the first person I've heard that say that you don't like the way it resolves itself. But one thing I want to ask you though is why?
No, that's not me.
All right, but you said that. I thought you said that earlier that you weren't.
No, there's people out there who
you
don't like that does that. I like it because it doesn't do that.
Oh, okay. But you said that you had to have 2 or 3 attempts to watch it. So what happened those first 2 times?
I think I fell asleep.
Okay. So do you think you have to be in the right frame of mind?
I think so. Okay. Yeah, not sleepy. Be a good start.
Because it took me. I think it took me 2 attempts to watch it. Even though I was enjoying it the first time, but I was just kind of thinking it's meandering a bit, and Colin Farrell was kind of lower on my radar of people to be interested in. I didn't know who Brendan Gleeson was at this point. I was kind of enjoying it, but wasn't like kind of switched in. But then I think, like you say, Han, at some point it just clicked in.
It amps up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think for me it's before Ray Fiennes comes into it, but I did start enjoying it. I think
maybe that's when he needed to come in a bit sooner for me to wake me up.
To wake you up from it.
I've got to be honest, I did sort of nod off a couple of times while I was watching.
It's quite dreamlike in places,
though. We'll get to that in the
isn't
engagement
it?
score, I think.
Okay. I thought that was our chances of getting engaged.
So 4 for you say?
Yeah.
I'm going to go 3.8, I reckon. I think
that's very specific.
It's not that. There's been more specificity in this here podcast.
Okay.
People have used pi.
Oof. Wow.
I don't even know what that means, really, if I'm honest.
I think if we keep quiet, we get pie.
Okay.
Repeat viewing score, Hannah.
That means how likely am I to watch it again?
Yeah. So I guess 5 would be the film you could watch at a drop of a hat every single time.
Okay, so 5 is Trading Places.
Oh, nice.
Or Con Air. Right,
okay.
Yeah, okay. I would say...
Kindergarten Cop.
I would say a 3.
So you're the only person who's only seen it the once, aren't you?
Well, so I feel like maybe higher than that because I feel like my recommendability is 3, but it could be a 4 if I watched it like again, because this seems to be the theme here.
I think if you kind of enjoyed it and you were like, I kind of see where it's going, definitely watch it again because it is a little bit more rewarding when you kind of know what's coming up. So you're not so much like, oh, someone's died and oh, they're all dying. You kind of that's less of a shock thing, and you kind of get the humor a little bit more, and the references shine through.
So does that mean? Oh, what does that? So this is how likely I am to watch it again.
Yeah.
All right.
And how often you'd like to watch it again?
How often I'm likely to watch it.
Okay, so for you said Kindergarten Cop. How often? How many times have you seen it? And would you?
How many times have I seen Kindergarten Cop? Like, I literally couldn't tell you. I'd have no idea. I think it's my second favourite film of all time.
This begs the question.
Yeah, it really does.
Bugsy Malone.
Oh!
Obviously.
We could have been... We're not going to...
Exactly, it's a tune.
Have you seen any of the Black Mirror recent?
Yes.
No. Are there Bugsy Malone references in it?
Yes, in one episode there is.
Oof. Well, I might watch it now.
An episode called Crocodile. But I love Bugsy Malone.
Yeah, but that is also bleak.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, if it's going to ruin Bugsy Malone for me, repeat viewing. 3, maybe 3. I'll watch it again, but I'm probably not going to watch it like as much as I would watch Kindergarten Cop if given the chance.
Helen.
I'm also going to go for a 3. I've seen it quite a few times now, maybe 4, 5.
Okay.
So that's quite a lot. I mean, I will watch it again, but not immediately. But I'm more inclined to maybe revisit 7 Psychopaths, I think.
Yeah, I think I want to hit that first, I think. So I might go for 2.5 here. Really enjoyed it. And I think what him and his brother do are really cool films. His brother did The Guard and Cavalry.
Yeah.
Cavalry.
That's a really good film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So those two guys together are brilliant.
Also, bleak.
That's fucking horrible, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I like what those guys are doing. So anything that they do.
Yeah.
Did you say you watched 3 Billboards at London Film Festival?
No, I watched it.
You watched it
in the cinema.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I didn't. At my local cinema, they had a preview showing of it. But no, Jen was at the film festival, but I didn't think you could get a ticket for that.
It was on the Sunday morning, and I couldn't be asked to get up, so I didn't go to the press screening. No.
Okay. if you're listening, London Film Festival, we did appreciate that ticket.
It's lovely, thank you, guys. Saw a lot of other films.
Small screen score. Helen, do you want to explain for our dear listeners and for our guests?
So I kind of think, how well does this play in your home viewing sort of arena, and is it well suited for that? But then also take into consideration whether it would be best viewed in the cinema. So
Okay, well, I never saw it in the cinema the first time round, so I only have the small screen, and it is quite literally small screen. I have a tiny telly. Sometimes I spend ages like trying to get the HDMI thing into the back of my TV because that's just a pain in the neck.
Why do you disconnect it?
Just leave it in.
Yeah, that's a good question, and we'll get to that. Yeah,
Is it the cats?
probably the cats. But and then I don't know why I bothered, because actually my laptop screen isn't actually that much smaller than my television is. I think it works on a small screen for me because it is quite, like I say, it's quite theatrical. It is quite small.
Sure.
And yeah, it's got pretty medieval city, but I actually live in a pretty medieval city, so I get enough of that. Yeah, I'm going with 4 again.
All right, Jen.
I don't know. I didn't really feel like anything was lost watching it on I can see like what you're saying. It's like quite pretty, but then also you'd have to watch all of the really gory bits.
Yeah,
on a bigger scale. So it's, and you couldn't move word over the horrible bits if you didn't want to watch them. So yeah, 4. Why not?
I'm also going to go for a 4. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen this, or if you've seen it a very long time ago, then it's on Netflix, so you should definitely revisit it. Although I did really enjoy listening to people coming out of 3 billboards and how they felt and how cheated they were, and how
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they're like, oh, I really didn't think it was going to end that way. It really, no, they were wrong. It must have been him. I really didn't think that it was the right way to end the film. And other people are like, is this winning the awards? And
Which cinema were you watching this?
the Picture House in Clapham.
No Picture House should have
Sunday.
people like that.
No,
But it was really funny because obviously they'd been sold this movie on the great reviews and the awards and everything, and were really just like, they were like
excited to watch this best film.
They kind of like thinking, people were laughing. If it wasn't funny, it had murder and things in it. It really
absolutely hilarious in places.
yeah.
it definitely is.
I saw it at the Hackney Picture House, and those pricks were all over it. They loved it. There was someone like...
We're a fan of the Hackney Picture House. We're there every month for the film quiz.
It could have been the silver screen though. There were a lot of
Older people.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think they'd get anything Martin McDonagh does.
Someone at the Hackney
That's quite
Picture
ageist, actually, isn't it?
shouted out, "She's a woman!"
What?
After she did something outrageous, but like in a really like, yeah.
All right.
Some dude just went, "She's a woman," and laughed like, "Oh, that's why it's funny, because she's a woman." It was hilarious.
I think some people say in cinemas. I went to see. I was in a Picture House one actually in Nottingham, and we went to see Sideways.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a Marmite of a film. I like it. And someone behind us, just as it ended, went, "Can't believe none of them got arrested for drink driving." Okay, it's an interesting thing to take away from that film, but okay.
Yeah.
But I often think that in American TV shows that they go to bars, they'll have at least 3 or 4 cocktails,
Yeah.
take them safely over the limit, and then just drive home. And no one seems to be batting an eye. I saw a show.
Well, we've been watching The Wire.
I was going to
quite
say,
a lot.
McNulty's a big fan of that.
True that. We all watch The Wire on this tape. We're going to talk about The Wire after this podcast record finishes. Small screen score. I don't think it made the most of Bruges in the cinematography. I thought it looked quite pretty, but it was
not really a tourism
no.
effort,
But that's what I mean. So I don't think it needed to be. I don't think it needs to be on the large screen to make the most of this film. That said, I still do want to visit Bruges mainly off the back of this film. Go figure. I'm going to give it 4. Join the 4 band.
Yeah.
Engagement score. How engaged were you during this film? Were you checking Netflix Wikipedia to do stuff? Were you checking your Twitter accounts?
No, I was pretty engaged. I was making notes, and I am a really, really bad note taker. I'm quite notorious for this. I generally look and I've written my own name or stuff on the list. So yes, I was pretty engaged. I do a thing on our podcast where I have to watch a Disney film every week, and I sometimes manage to like completely empty out my wardrobe while watching that in levels of engagement. So, or have a full conversation with my mum on the phone. So yeah, I would say I was engaged. That would be a 5 from me.
I had a couple of naps, so it's very tired though.
Either side of the naps, were you engaged or were you kind of floating in and out?
I was very tired. This was hard to tell. I mean, it's not a great, if I fell asleep like twice, that's probably, should we say 2.5? Does that seem fair?
I guess so.
You've made good use of a percentage, Jen, and I'm pleased with that.
Yeah, I felt like
we haven't taken advantage of the percentage potential enough.
Yeah.
See, this is tricky because I've gone through all of the stages of engagement with this film, from 0 to 3 to 5.
So you're taking into account all your previous viewing
all
experiences.
of the watches, yeah. So
Sure.
it's hard for me to, because I wasn't particularly engaged this time round, only in the bits that I really enjoyed or the bits that I couldn't remember. And then in the bits where I was like, yeah, I know what's coming up next, I wasn't 100% engaged. I was
just
in
waiting
an
for the next
IMDb
bit.
spiral.
Can happen.
How does that work? I go 3.5.
Yeah, all right. I liked this time round. This was only my second time watching it, and I think I was like yourself, kind of waiting for the corpse to hit the street kind of thing, and waiting. I'd forgotten that what happens with the dwarf. I forgot that that was a really nice touch to watch it the second time. And I forgot things like when they meet Yuri and him just being this random Russian guy.
Yeah.
Like the alcoves. Is that how you say it? Alcoves? Yes, alcoves. Or nooks and crannies. Yes.
And his place is just mental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I forgot the things with the faked robbery with the girl that he goes out with on a date and stuff like that. So I'd completely forgotten a lot of it. So that kept bringing me back to the film, I think. So I'm going to go for a 4. And that gives us an overall score of 3.58.
It's just shy of a 4. I'm a bit surprised. I thought it might have come out a little bit higher.
A bit higher.
I think that's my fault.
It's not a fault thing.
It's no fault.
It's just how it works.
I feel like I have to watch it again. I feel like from what everyone said, I feel like a second viewing would be recommended.
I feel a bit like you're not in the club a little bit.
Yeah.
A second viewing is almost always recommended with most things.
I think if
something's worth watching, if something's not worth watching twice, it's not really worth watching once, to be honest.
I think if you fell asleep a couple of times, you weren't in the best frame of mind to give it the
As someone who's fallen asleep in it, I recommend give it a go.
Staying awake.
Yeah. Another go.
See
a little,
what I can
little
do.
bit.
Yeah.
I'll
down the
probably give
line.
it a few months.
Well, let us know. Send us a little message.
Shall we see what the Twistsphere has to say?
Yes. So not many people have seen this film. We've only had one response.
What? That is literally, that shrugging Colin Farrell is what that deserves.
Oh, that's 2.
That was 2.
There's John.
Someone just replied. Someone literally just sent a message in 17 minutes ago. So thank you very much. There was only one message before. Hannah, do you want to read the top one from
It says from John.
Yep.
Yeah, 4 stars. The bar scene, in particular, the punchline of Brendan Gleeson's face, which we actually have a nice gif of, is one of my favourites in any film, but not enough to give it 5 stars.
That's from John Lunny, friend of the show.
Hi, John.
Jen, do you want to take the last one?
Sure, why not? It's from What Were They Thinking, which is at WWTT Podcast, and they say 4 stars from what I remember. That seems weird, doesn't it? 4 stars from what I remember. This movie is terrific. It's been a while, though.
I think there's more people who've seen it, but maybe it's a Monday and they've not checked their Twitter enough. And
well, we'll see. I mean, I don't think it was ever that big.
Well, hopefully we're bringing in Bruce.
Yeah, exactly.
Then.
I don't think it was ever that big a hit. And but I think 3.6 is a fair kind of rating based on what other people said. 3.64. I did think it was going to be a bit higher, but c'est la vie. That's how the scoring system goes. Guys, do you want to sign off and tell people where we can find you on Twitter and on the internet?
I was just going to say, I can't believe we got all the way through this without using the C word, but
You did say the C word twice,
I did.
though.
Sorry, what are we saying? Oh, are we saying where to
Who are
find
you,
us?
Hannah, and what do you do?
I am Hannah. I am I am a third of the Standard Issue team. You can find us on Twitter at Standard Issue UK or me at that Dunleavy.
And I am also a third of the Standard Issue podcast, and you can find me on Twitter at Inspire Jen.
Awesome. Where can we find your podcast?
You can find us on iTunes and Acast and other places
Other
that I don't
apps.
know what they are, but they surely
Most of the apps, I believe.
Awesome.
Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Bye. Cheers, guys. You were just listening to the latest episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Thank you to Brendan Russell for his sublime editing skills. Mighty People for the tunes you can hear right now. Please do come to iTunes and find us, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod and our website, flixwatcher.tv.